Welcome to Empowered. I'm your host, Jessica Flynn of thejessicaflynn.com, and our show is on a mission to unleash local wisdom for widespread impact. We are committed to promoting positive change in our community and beyond. And today's episode is incredibly special. We're joined by Shay Riordan, a proud parent, advocate, and community voice who is here to share her personal and powerful perspective on queer parenting. Shay and her wife, Katie, are raising 2 young boys with a 3rd on the way, and through that journey have embraced the joys, challenges, and unique experiences that come with raising a family in a world that's still learning how to fully celebrate all kinds of love. With honesty, warmth, and insight, Shay's going to help us better understand what visibility, inclusion, and support can look like for queer parents, for kids, and for the communities that surround them. Shay and I have been talking about this episode for months and months and months, and we're so excited that it's here. She's joining us on a virtual stage today. So Shay, thank you so much for saying yes to this opportunity and for joining us from your home studio today.
Oh, I'm so excited to do this, and it's such a exciting time to do this, and I can't wait.
Well, and I think you and the family that you've created in the community of Collingwood are such a shining example of what's possible when we really embrace love and build our dream lives with the people we love around us. So can you introduce to us to your beautiful family and share a little bit about your parenting journey so far?
Yeah, so I have my wife, Katie. We've been together for 12 and a half years, married for almost 9. We have our oldest son, Zephyr, who's 4 and a half. Our youngest son is Lawson. He just turned 1 last month.
Oh my goodness.
The baby on the way.
Oh my goodness. That sounds like a very busy household.
Oh, I didn't include the animals.
And you have some pets as well, right? We may hear them today. So can you tell us a little bit about some of those early discussions and considerations that you and Katie made and navigated when you decided to become parents?
So that's a really great question. When you're in the queer community and you decide to have kids, there's so many factors that I'm not sure that straight couples really think about. Mm-hmm. Like, are our kids going to be accepted? That was the biggest one. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of religious people in our family. Will they embrace our children? Will they treat them like all the other kids? Will we be good parents?
We all ask that question. Yeah.
Yeah. And then how will we do this? What route are we going to go? There's so many options. And when I was doing this, I had to go down a Google stream because I didn't have a lot of information. Mm-hmm. So I found that really vital, but so quite a lot of considerations before having a baby.
Right. So can you tell us, in your Google searching that you started many years ago, what did you find? Like, what options are available to, let's say, same-sex couples like yourself and Katie, and how did you choose what was right for you as a family?
So there are many options, and it kind of goes based on how you want to start. You can do a known donor, which means that somebody you know would donate. You can do IUI, which is intrauterine insemination. Mm-hmm. You can do IVF, intravenous
fertilization.
Yeah. And fertilization, that's what it is. Yeah. And then you can do adoption as well if you wanted, mm-hmm. or if you were a gay, like, male couple, you could do surrogacy. Mm-hmm. So there's quite a few options. And then we wanted to go down the route of, if you chose a donor, would that donor become available for the children when they're older? Mm. Because I come from a mother who was adopted, and that was a very painful story for her. Mm. And I didn't want to do that to my children. Right. So there's so many options. And we went with a known donor.
Okay. That's incredible to look at, there are so many considerations, and even I imagine too, like who's going to carry, and just more things to think about and to navigate than with same-sex couples. And it's obviously the route that you chose has worked so well with 2 healthy boys and another baby on the way. And so can you tell us about what are some of the unique joys and strengths that come with raising children in a queer household? What are some of those really kind of extra special moments that you've noticed?
Well, I think that when you're part of the queer community, it's all about love. And that joy is spread. I think if you've ever been to a Collingwood Pride, you can just feel it. It's palpable, right?
Yeah.
And so when you make this decision to have a kid, it's very planned out. Like it's not like a surprise, right?
Yeah.
So it means that these kids are already so loved before they're even created. And so when they're born, it's just like this celebration. And then you get the opportunity to raise them a little bit different than maybe you were raised, right? Like for us in our home, it's so important that inclusion is a big thing. We want all the colors of the rainbow, whether it be dolls or toys or whatever. We talk about different cultures and different upbringings and countries because we know that we're different, and we want our children to be like, oh, well, we're different, but that's okay. And we accept everybody. And I think that's such a unique experience, because I know a lot of parents do that, but we know firsthand that when they talk about having 2 mummies, that might be give other children pause or teachers pause, right? So we want them to be so excited about it instead of being fearful.
Right.
And I think that that's such a beautiful way to grow up, being like, yeah, I'm different, but I'm so special too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so you and your wife are doing so many different things in your own household to promote diversity, inclusion. So it's really being woven in the fabric of your young family. But how are other people, like what were the conversations you needed to have with your parents, with your family members who you said are maybe more religious and you weren't sure how they were going to react? So we know that our children are a product not only of ourselves, but of the community that is surrounding them. So how is the whole community showing up with that same message for your kids?
Well, it was really interesting. So when I got pregnant with Zephyr, it was a huge concern. My mother-in-law is so religious, and I was really worried because although this is Katie's son, biologically, he's not, right? So I didn't want my son to be treated any different. And the same with the community. I was really overwhelmed. I was scared that Collingwood wouldn't accept my kid. So me and Katie talked about it a lot, and ultimately we were like, you know what, if they don't accept it, then that's their own problem. That's not our problem. We're just going to treat our children with so much love that they're not going to know the difference.
Right.
But what ended up happening was sometimes your perceptions are so wrong. And that was the truth, because not only does my mother-in-law love my kids, she adores them. Absolutely. Like there's no difference at all. And she lives for them. And then the community, not only were they excited, you know, that we were having a baby, but they celebrated us. And so that was almost overwhelming, because I thought that we were going to go so far in one direction and we went so far on the other. But it was so beautiful. And unfortunately, that's not the way it goes with a lot of queer couples, right? And in those situations, you just have to be united and just love that kid as much as you can, and surround yourself with people who will love them just as much as you do.
Yeah. So it's incredible to know that your family and the larger community was so supportive and continues to be. What advice do you have for those folks who are not receiving the same type of support from their close community and then the larger community when they're looking at starting and raising a family?
Well, I think first, like I said, you need to be united with your partner, but then also finding people around you that do support you, and then having conversations with those people, because children are so pure and so innocent. And whatever way they were conceived and brought into the world, that child deserves your love. That child deserves to be cared for. And we live in a world that is so diverse. Why would you not want to accept that child? But also, like, just research stuff. If you have trouble with accepting something, do yourself a favor and get a book, or go on Google, or go on Instagram and immerse yourself in these people. More often than not, you'll find more similarities with yourself than things that are different. And then you can find a common ground, and then you can build on that and find love. And I think that's what the problem with our world is sometimes, is we're scared. And if you educate yourself, then there's less fear.
Yeah. I think too, sometimes that fear is that someone's going to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing. And so by connecting with community leaders such as yourself and just doing the work and learning how to be an ally, learning how to love unconditionally these children who are here, like you said, just these beacons of love and joy in our community, no matter how they got here, where they come from, but really coming together as community. So Shay, I want to thank you so much for the conversation so far. We are going to come back with Shay after the break to talk a little bit more about resources. As you've heard, she's a big researcher and has been doing all sorts of work for the community to become a resource for other families. So stay tuned to Empowered with Jessica Flynn. Welcome back to Empowered. I'm your host, Jessica Flynn, and we are talking with Shay, who is an incredible advocate, community leader, mother of 2 plus 1 more on the way, parenting her family with her wife, Katie, in the beautiful town of Collingwood. So Shay, you've also dedicated your time, in addition to raising 2 children, you're doing the stay-at-home mom, you guys have your own business, you also have many pets, you have another baby on the way, but you are developing your personal brand as a community resource as well. So can you tell us a little bit about your website? I know it's brand new, but you have launched a series of blogs. So can you tell us about what you're passionate about sharing and what the mission is with your personal brand?
So the blogs are mostly just kind of like a peek into my life. It talks a lot about how I conceived my children, goes into the nitty gritty, which we won't go to here, but if you want the full details, they're there.
So nice to know where to go to learn, though.
Yeah, and then resources, products, all sorts of stuff. Everything is included in the blogs and links so that it makes it easy for you. Also, it talks about my lifestyle, gardening, amateur baking from gluten-free, messing up the recipes, all that stuff. So it's a little bit of everything. And then if you know me from the past, you know my passion for green beauty is really big. So there's a lot of talk about that as well.
Okay, beautiful. And do you intend on, sharing some of the tools and resources that you found in your research? Can you act as a resource for folks who want to learn more about maybe community around queer parenting or different resources available to them and their partners?
That's actually the reason why I started the blog, because like I said before, it was so hard for me to find information, and I had to go and dig, and I found it a bit overwhelming. And ultimately, we did figure out the magic sauce, right? Mm-hmm. But I wanted to make it easier for people, so it was like a one-stop shop. If you wanted to figure this out, you wanted the details, and then you don't have to guess. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I started my blog.
Okay, amazing. And I imagine too, when you're publishing this work and sharing your story online, it's so that you also wish more people knew a little bit more about your experience. So what do you wish more people knew or understood about queer parenting?
I think that it goes into perceptions again. Like, there's so often, for me and my wife, I guess we would be considered a typical lesbian couple. My wife is more masculine, I'm more feminine, I carry the babies, and that's how people think things work. But that is so often not the case. There's a lot of more masculine females that will carry the baby. There are trans couples that are trans men that will carry a baby. Mm-hmm. And, there's so many different nuances, and there's no one size fits all for queer communities. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's why we have to remove our perceptions, because however this works, maybe somebody couldn't carry. You don't know, right? And mm-hmm. so we should just embrace it and be like, oh, okay, instead of being like the lipstick lesbian has to carry the baby, mm-hmm. right?
Right. Yeah. Anything else on, I imagine because of where you live, and it is a fairly very supportive community. I've heard that the Collingwood Pride Festival is only second to Toronto, which is pretty cool. So I think this is also a bit of a plug to get out and see love being celebrated with all sorts of different types of families, different people in our community who are giving so much to our community and own businesses and raise their families. And this is a real chance to celebrate them and show support and come out. But I'm wondering too, because Zephyr Rain is your eldest and he is coming up on school aged. I'm wondering if you could tell us, I know your plan is a little bit of alternative school, a little bit of homeschool, but as you think about preparing him to widen his community again with teachers, with volunteers, with other students. What are you and Katie doing to prepare him and yourselves for his world getting bigger? It's a milestone for any family, but are you taking any additional steps or doing any other work to prepare?
Well, we always talk to him about how we're a little bit different. So the typical family has a mommy and a daddy, but you have two mummies, and some people have two daddies, and some people have a grandma, some people have uncles, some people have aunts. And so we like to give him like his toolbox, We're like, you're a little bit different. Some people might have questions, but just say, I just have two mummies and I love my moms. Mm-hmm. That's all you have to say. And as far as like the teachers and stuff and the people in workspaces or whatever, I want them to be more equipped too. So I want to have interviews with them before going in and be like, I understand that we're different from a normal family, but if you could address the kid, when you say parents, that would be great instead of a mommy or daddy. Dad. Yeah. Because all families are different. And then really encourage also everybody to get books and stuff for those kids as well that talk about different families, not just queer families, but like different races, different everything, so that everybody feels included. Yeah. And maybe I'll bring some books just so that Zephyr has that in his.
Do you have any favorite books at home that speak to,
Yeah, I love Our Rainbow. It's a book and it's shaped like a pride flag, and it talks about all the colors of the rainbow. And the first one is black and brown, and that's for inclusion and diversity. And I love that. And And then the book just talks about love and how we're different, but we're loved. And that's such a beautiful book. Yeah. And it's so sweet. I think everybody should have that book because it's so sweet and it talks about everybody.
And what was it called again? Sorry?
Our Rainbow.
Our Rainbow. I have this story, I think I told you in preparation for this episode, but I have one of my dearest friends and his partner. I've been friends with him for 20 plus years. And I remember the first time they came to sleep over and they were bringing their dog for the weekend. And I was like, I don't know if I should prep my son. He was just like old enough to start asking, he was asking questions and about everything. And it was my husband who said, he doesn't know any different. Like I think that was really eye-opening to me. And now he just knows them as this is a way of doing life. We have all sorts of diversity in terms of how love is expressed in our lives. And it's been such a gift and a reminder of how precious and open our children are until we impose our fears or biases on them. So I think how you're, thinking about school and how you talk about your family with your family, that's shaping their understanding of the world. And I think if we all think about in our own homes, just being empathetic and recognizing that the way that we do life is not the way that everybody does life, and it's not lesser than, it's simply different. Celebrating wonderful people, raising beautiful, beautiful humans. I think it gives me a lot of hope for the future that our children are going to share together.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. I think they're so pure, and when you say something to them, they just say like, okay, yeah, can I have a snack now?
Exactly. You're like, Katie and I talked about it all night. We've got our plan. This is how we're going to tackle it. And they're just like, yeah, that makes sense to me, right? Yeah. They have this other understanding and truly are so open and loving naturally. It's really a matter of how do we keep that spark? How do we keep that love open? Yeah. Yeah. So what advice would you give someone? We've got some tools and resources and we'll direct folks to your website and to your Instagram channels to learn more. But what about those who also want to learn how to be better allies with the LGBTQ plus families, especially parents?
Well, there's a great organization called PFLAG, which is Parents for Lesbian and Gays.
Okay.
And that was one of the resources that I used when I was trying to conceive. And I'm sure that they've updated in the last 5 years, even more. But it is really wonderful because even when I came out as a lesbian, my mom used that website because she wasn't fully grasping the idea. And it helped her understand that there are other parents and that we just love our kids and how to change your perceptions, because that's what it all is about, right? I've been raised this way. This is how I think. And now I have this alternative lifestyle that's happening, and how do I wrap my brain around that? And so there's a lot of talk about I guess coming out again, right? So now you've come out as a family. So you have to wrap your mind around, okay, so now my queer child is having a kid and that's not how I thought it was going to be, but this is a reality and I want to come at it with love. I'm just scared and I don't have the information. And so PFLAG is a great resource to get that information. And you can do Google searches. There's also a lot of, we have the Rainbow Club in Collingwood. And so that's a great resource as well, or Pride. Or if you know of some other gay parents, just ask them questions. More often than not, I think people are so afraid to ask questions or to say the wrong thing, like you said earlier. But what I have found, and for myself personally, if you ask me a question with love because you genuinely want to know, that I'm so happy to give you that information. And I'm so happy to work with you because that shows me that you have love as well. And you just haven't gotten there yet. You just don't know the answers. And I mean, nobody has the answers for life, right? We're all figuring it out.
Right.
So
I think it's such a beautiful gift that you've opened up your story and you're, like you said, documenting your day-to-day to help. Not only, I imagine it helps you celebrate everything that you've built and accomplished, but also to help others to work towards achieving, that holistic self of if family is on their vision board with their partner, if even just coming out for the first time. And I love how you describe coming out as a family as like the second step. So as we wrap up, what's one message you hope our viewers take away from your story today?
We're all learning, and life is about love. And if you can just accept that things are going to be different and keep your heart open and keep your mind open, then you're going to be happy. Love always wins. And if you can put that forward, you're going to win no matter what.
We're all going to win. And our children especially.
Yes.
Well, it has been such a pleasure. I'm so glad that we navigated some tech stuff to get us through, because this is such an important message, and we are intentionally, sharing this episode before the Collingwood and Canadian Pride festivals happen in June 2025. But this episode will live on in Rogers repeat land, because I do think it's such a valuable resource. We've got your website shared and your Instagram, so please reach out to Shay so that she can help you in any way, or if not, connect you with the right resources so that you can feel love, find love and community, and raise your families in whatever fashion style is meant for you, with confidence and with that love and community around you. So thank you so much, Shay, and we hope to see you on our next episode of Empowered. I'm your host, Jessica Flynn.